Okay, so our next phase is going to be stabilizing and clearing our wine. This actually sat for, actually I'm trying to see, our directions on here, it actually had it set for 10 days. We went a little bit longer. Life kind of happened and we went a little bit longer than that. It's not always that bad for it to go because really it's fermentation. It went a little longer for fermentation. What could happen is if you think about wine, if that yeast eats a little bit more of the grape sugars, it just makes it really of a drier wine, which kind of we like anyway. It's kind of a style of wine that we like. So it's okay if that's what we have, is a little bit of a drier wine. I wouldn't recommend leaving it for a month, but instead of 10 days, I think we went about 14 days. And even on the directions, it says, you can check your gravity, you can see where it's at. It might need a little extra time to even ferment. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to put, from our kit, we're going to put in potassium metabisulfate and also potassium sorbate. And what these are going to do is it's going to actually help the yeast pretty much stop fermenting and just drop out of the wine, because we don't want it to ferment anymore, and we also don't want any kind of type of fermentation to happen once it goes in the bottle, because if that happens, it would create pretty much a carbonated red wine, which is not what we're looking for. So what we do is, as the directions say, we're going to actually dissolve this in half a cup of cool water, and we're going to add it to our carboy with our wine in it, and we're actually going to mix it up and degass it. But first I'm just going to dissolve these. I put a spoon in our sanitizer. If you remember, we're using Star San. Star San, it's really foamy. It's a non-rinse sanitizer. Biggest thing that winemakers and beer makers say is don't fear the foam. It actually, again, it can dissolve into like a yeast nutrient. We're not going to obviously need a yeast nutrient at this point, but because it's going to help it drop out. Alright, so that's good and dissolved, and it also will dissolve in our wine. So we're going to add this to our carboy. Now what we want to do is we want to degass the wine, which pretty much gets the gas out from all the fermentation that's happened. For our directions for this style of wine and for this kit is that we don't actually rack it out into another carboy and add these and degas. We actually leave it in the carboy. So this one's a little bit different than some other ones. Again, you just read your directions to see which one you do. This little handy dandy device is for this exact thing, where it can fit into the carboy, and then once it gets in, it spreads out. And we want to pretty much mix it all together. And for this one too, it says they want to get the sediment, the yeast sediment from the bottom to actually mix all in with the wine again. And they want you to do it for about 2 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer here for me. Alright, so I'm actually just going to put this right back in my sanitized bucket. Again, it's just sanitizer we're using. I'm not going to reuse this for anything else. I'm going to dump it when I'm done. But a couple things with, when you're doing this, you want it to stir pretty vigorously. You can see I kind of have some foam going on here now. You want to be careful too. You might have seen some of it starting to overflow a little bit. I recommend doing this outside, or I'm putting a towel down. I have a dedicated, wine towel now, because obviously, red wine, you don't want to spill it anywhere. But the idea is to get the gas out of it. And again, this tool works really well. I've heard people transferring into a bucket and just stirring it pretty vigorously. But again, they're not very expensive. You can get them online. You can get them at your local wine supply shop. And so what we're going to do now is, this is we're going to add our clarifying agent, and it's pretty much almost like a gelatin kind of material. It's a little bit different. It's made really for wine, and what it's going to do is it's going to grab the sediment of the wine and also the yeast, and it's going to also let it just kind of fall to the bottom. Because what we're going to do is the next step, once we've done this and let this sit, we're going to take all the wine out that has settled and it's clear, and all the stuff that's in the bottom we're going to leave. So you just add this into your carboy. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to whip it up for about 2 minutes. Start my timer. All right, so that's pretty much the end of this step. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna wash off my my bung that got a little dirty, you can see from the wine. I'm just gonna wash that off and dump it in my sanitizer and put it back on, but that's pretty much it. This is gonna sit for about another week and it's going to clarify. Again, it's gonna get clearer. They talk about you can actually get a thing called a wine thief, and a wine thief goes into your carboy and it pulls out just a little sample and you can kind of take a look at it. Put it in a glass, look up to a light and see how clear it is, and see if you want it to sit maybe like an extra 5 or 6 days just to get a little bit more clear. And then we'll go on to the next stage after that. All right?